Hi, I'm Katina Anglin.
And I'm Ellen Figueroa.
Welcome to another episode of A Good Show.
And with us on this good show, on this episode, we have with us Dr. Silvia Wilks, who was also here with us last week. And we welcome back again Ms. Kathleen Tyson-Sewell and MSW. I think I mispronounced that last name.
It's all right.
It's all right, good. But here we are with two great, beautiful women. Well, four beautiful women.
Yeah.
I think that's the consensus.
And then we continue the topic of feminism. And we are definitely women who believe that we are beautiful, but we know our place as women.
Agreed. And I think just lending to the topic that we were discussing is feminism and how it affects the family structure. And that family structure is built on God's perfect design for the existence of mankind. And last week, Dr. Silvia, we closed off the show with you and in your comments. And before starting going back to having your thoughts, I would like to read from an article from the New York Post, which was published July the 7th, 2018, and the title of it is Feminism Has Destabilized the American Family. Now, I'm reading excerpts from this, but I know that you will be able to see the article online, and you're free to access it. If you'd like a link to it, just let us know. And the article quotes, and the article states, and I quote, "In 1970, the women's lib movement fulminated against male dominance, endorsed sexual liberation, and demanded that the nuclear family be smashed." It goes on to say that Lena Dunham, who has built a persona as a spokesman for women, wondered how any woman could reject the label feminist. A 2016 poll found that 68% of American women use the term to describe themselves. Her free-floating contempt for men was evident in a recent tweet, and I quote, "I'd honestly rather fall into 1 million manholes than have one single dude tell me to watch my step," end quote. Note the resentment even when men are attempting to be kind. Dunham is voicing the 21st century version of the 1970s slogan, "A woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle." Without denying the beneficial effects of feminism, we are overdue for reckoning about its missteps. One of those was stoking such bitterness between men and women. The article goes on to speak about how feminism has affected the institution of marriage. And it closes off on that issue by saying that most women want and need upright, well-adjusted, dependable men to serve as co-anchors of healthy and happy families. The feminist movement was deeply misguided to take an aim at marriage. Far from oppressing women, it offers a safe foundation for a full life. And it's talking about what marriage does for the family structure and the fullness of life. And you have a master's in family.
Marriage and family studies.
Yes. And if you would please share your thoughts with us on feminism, the family structure, and how it is affecting the family structure.
Well, even way before the feminism came about, or this liberation movement for women, we can go way back to Genesis, where sin came into the world, because we know God's design, we know God's intention, where one person will come together with another person, and how life is supposed to continue. But when this fallen environment started, that is when the idea of anything that is outside of God's intention is okay. And so you find that a lot of people over time, you see people deciding, well, I want to do things my way.
Yes.
And sometimes there are good intentions, but they're doing things the wrong way.
Misguided.
Sometimes they have an intention that they don't necessarily say up front. And like what you just read, the intention was to unravel marriage as God's design, unravel family as God's design. They may not have said that, and they probably would not have gotten very far if they said that initially. And so even though there were women who were oppressed by men, and we know that, and there's some cultures that still exist, the intention really wasn't for that purpose as such. So when you think of what God's design is, and I was thinking earlier when I was reflecting, and I was thinking about today, is I thought about ownership. Somebody came up with the idea of a business, and they're the owner. So you don't necessarily question the owner and his or her idea of what they intend to do to serve humanity, right? And then the owner may decide, okay, I want a manager to do a particular role. I want an assistant manager to do something else. They have equal, like I said last week, they have equal or mutual purpose for the objectives and the goals of that business, right? But different roles.
Yes.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Yes.
The man and the woman are both as equally important
Right.
to the marriage, to the family, just different roles, So I think that having that understanding, because I still think that there's a lot of people that still thinks of headship as, I want to be the head, regardless of whether I'm the woman or a man, I the one that should hold that role. The way God designed it is the way God designed it. He's the owner in it. So, loving headship and loving submission. You being the leader doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to lord over me. And Jesus made it clear. You being leader means you are a servant.
Yes.
Exactly.
You are the
Yes.
one that should be serving as the leader, not necessarily being the one who is bossy.
So what I'm getting there from you is that then when we recognize that everyone benefits from a more gender equal society, recognizing and encouraging and being there for one another. Because when God created man and he looked around, he said, it's not good for man to be alone. Well, he just didn't mean Adam by himself, but then when Eve came in and then he created Eve to be there as that helpmate, then that statement went for both genders.
Exactly.
It's not good for man, woman, and man to be
Mankind.
alone.
Yes.
We both are equal
Right.
in so many roles, but we know who is better at this, so we give way to that. We just don't have to give up on men and make men feel like they're not needed, and men don't have to give up on women as if they're not needed, because we also seen some of that.
Right.
But we'll,
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
go ahead.
Now, Ms. Catherine, you wrote a very powerful book. And again, today you have a copy of it. And if you haven't gotten your copy of Single Mama, Powerful, Not Pitiful, please get it. It is filled with nuggets. But even in your book, while the title of it is Single Mama, Powerful, Not Pitiful, you're not advocating for the displacement of males or the institution of marriage.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I speak very strongly about my co-parenting relationship as well with my children's father when he was alive. So that in itself really spoke of the respect and the necessity that, that is required when you have children. You didn't have them by yourself. So obviously,
Right.
I'm not glorifying single
That's it.
motherhood in any way. What I'm doing is basically saying, if you're not able to find that person or meet somebody that can complement you as a mother and will derail you from your job, the focus should be on your children. But ideally, it should be a mother and a father in a home.
Correct.
Ideally, it should be a two-parent household. And that's why I do talk a lot about the co-parenting relationship, because it was such a necessity to have my children's father be a very strong force in their life as long as he was alive. And so I feel sometimes that while I was writing this book, as well as I'm Somebody's Mama, and talking about my journey as a single mother, I think I realized that a lot of women end up as single mothers from a default standpoint. And I almost believe that we have to be the head of the household in a lot of cases by a default reason. It's almost, you know what I mean? Like when you look back 20, 30 years and more women are in college and more women are being educated and more women are making more money, and you know, and that in itself might have led to the decline in some way of or the diminishing of our men in society. But I believe that how it originally started was as a default method. It's that I wanted to be the best that I can be, but I happen to have this responsibility that I cannot shirk on. I have to be at the top of my game because I got some people kind of riding on me surviving. And so that default in no way was to diminish men. It was to diminish a man's role in our lives. Both are necessary. And I feel it breaks my heart to think that feminism comes from that point where it was to mash up marriage. I almost feel like even Lena Durham, that I used to see a lot of stuff, when she first was a big thing in Hollywood. She was speaking about being a plus size person as well. She has a lot of things that she was talking about. And I feel like for her, what I could say as an MSW, as a person that's been working with family systems for all of my career, over 20 something years now, is that they're coming from a place of pain. And so this pain that they're feeling, and lashing out almost at maybe the people that have caused them pain, but not realizing that we can't just sweep the entire body of men and say, all of you are no good. I'm going to just take over and be the best I can be. I don't need you for anything. I don't believe that is exactly how it started or where it should have ended up. So I feel like even shows like this or discussions like this have an opportunity to pull back and say, hang on, let's get back to the drawing board. Let's really talk about this from the standpoint that it needs to be talked about. Not that we're dashing away men, or that women are better without them, or women can do it by themselves, because that's absolutely a lie. First of all, as a parent, it took two of us to make them children. So that has to show that both people are as valuable as the other, because you can't do it, one can't do it without the other. Whether or not you go to a sperm bank, doesn't matter. You still had to go to a sperm bank.
Still came from a man, right?
Exactly. Still came from a man.
Exactly. So I feel like that in itself, when you talk about creation, that's the indicator there. It takes to create a human being, and so that would mean that both people have the same amount of value. And so destroying that in some way because you want to be the head of something, like you said, being the leader is being a servant. Dr. Silvia, I mean, that was the best way to describe that. Just because you're the head doesn't mean that this is my way and this is what you're going to do. And that's why I think it's from a place of pain. I think someone's experience has almost like led them to say, oh, well, I'm not going to take anything from men anymore. Maybe it was your experience with a particular man or particular men in your life, and then you kind of swept the whole,
all at one time. But
Thank you so
much. When we have that, where we can understand that, it's the equality, and what happens when we have equality and respect for one another, then we're creating a healthier, wealthier, educated society. With that equality, and not throwing everybody or all the men in one basket because something happened to you.
Absolutely.
And I think we really need to move back. And like you said earlier, I hope this show will help some women out there and men to recognize that, especially the women, we're talking to you ladies especially, is that this feminism thing it's gone too far. And it's time to rope it back in, because it's an intent it's a direct towards marriage and family.
Thank you so much for your book, right? Catherine, I And I like what you said about fathers, because we have to be careful about fatherlessness,
Right.
right? You know, and
Absolutely.
so just because you're not in a good relationship with the father at the moment doesn't necessarily mean that your children should not have a relationship with their
Exactly.
father,
Exactly.
because they need their father in their
Absolutely.
lives. So it's very important that they understand that needs to be
Absolutely.
maintained.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I feel too that another thing I'll just say to this is when men kind of feel disenfranchised, I feel like women, we're kind of responsible in some ways too. Like we have to push our men to be better. We have to. We shouldn't just accept anything. And I think that kind of the generation that we're in, we're seeing a lot of deadbeat dads, or we're seeing a lot of men that aren't producing to a certain level. But it has nothing to do with because women are producing. It's because women, we're accepting that.
Yes.
So the more that we push them to be better, the better that they're gonna be. And I mean, my husband says that to me. My husband literally says, women are responsible in some ways for men not doing well. Because if you accept that he doesn't have a job, or you accept that he's just gonna be hanging around doing nothing, well, why is he gonna do better? It's like
That must be
it's like,
prophetic.
you
I'm like,
all need to
oh
do
my
that,
gosh.
you know, like y'all need to push men to be better.
Oh my
Like,
gosh.
wow, it's true.
Once heard a pastor say that if women required men to have a degree, you'd have
Because
the vast majority of men would be educated.
Because men want
we raise
women.
the bar.
Because
Awesome.
but remember, men want women. You know, men, so they're gonna do what they need to do.
Exactly.
So if we set a standard,
they will come up to it.
they have to. And I think that we're in fear that if we set a standard, they're gonna leave. They're not gonna leave. They're gonna produce.
Yes.
And so it's almost like a
if you
catch
do it with
22.
love and respect,
Absolutely. Yes.
then that's what you're
Yes.
gonna
And
get.
I think
for
that's
So awesome.
I think that's kind of where we have gone wrong as women, and I think we need to admit this, is that we have done a tremendously perfect job at destroying manhood, masculinity, and male responsibility by saying, I don't need you, my child don't need you,
Yeah.
you're not no good, you can be like your pa. And even if you're the mother telling the child, you can be like your pa, you're going to jail, you're not going to be
And
no
that's
good.
ridiculous.
And-
And I have to
But-
say to that, I want to say to that particular point, as a parent, I realized very early on, and I want women to know this, when you tell your child that they're going to be just like their father, or you say that they're going to end up in the same situation, you're basically telling your child that they have come from somebody that's no good. So how can you expect that your child, when you just told them that their father is no good, not believe that you're telling them, well, I am also no good.
Exactly,
so if we were
right.
able to understand that, we would stop saying that. So no matter what happened, even between my co-parent, my husband, or at the time, and my children, or ex-husband at the time, my children, I would never do that to them because that wasn't there. So whatever I had to deal with him, I dealt with him. But for them, they didn't even know how mad I was at daddy, or for whatever reason, until they could understand that when they got older. Because I didn't want them thinking their dad was so horrible. In some way, that must mean they're horrible too.
Right.
And I think women do not realize, and men do this too, by the way. They don't realize when they talk bad about the baby's mother, or they talk about the other parent, that they're actually putting down their child.
Yes.
They don't understand how children are processing that.
And if you're telling the child from a young age that you're not going to be no good, you're setting
You're
the
setting them up.
expectations.
You're setting them up.
And so I'm not expected to be in a good, and therefore I don't have anything to aspire towards, decide to be.
Well, what
no
about
good.
the power
And
of life and death in the
and
tongue,
tongue,
right?
yes.
So
Yes.
yeah.
Because when you bless, you are empowering a person to prosper.
Yeah.
When you curse or say things that are unkind, you are disempowering them
You're
to
putting
prosper.
that in the universe too. Like I mean that's definitely like you're almost like prophesying over that person, and that's your children. Like why would you do that? You know?
Now, earlier it was spoken to about fatherlessness and women's approach to fatherhood, the role of the father. Children are entitled to their parents.
Wow.
They have
That's
the
deep.
right
That's right.
to their parents.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And when you tell a parent, whichever parent it is that's saying it, my child don't need you, you're telling them. biggest lie.
Lie.
Selfish.
That's
Selfish.
so
I don't want you to
sad.
have a relationship with him because I'm not able to have a relationship with
Thank
him.
you.
You're
Thank
doing
you.
that to your
Unfortunately.
child.
You are literally robbing that child
Right.
of 50% of its life's rights.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
how can you say you love that child and do that to them?
Exactly.
That's
Purposeful
unfair.
fatherlessness.
It's
The word
unfair.
you said is so true. It's
unfair.
selfishness.
Yes.
Because of
Yeah.
what is going on with me and him, or
Mm-hmm.
me and her.
Yes.
Then
yes.
it's
Not.
not. It's not
Yeah.
right.
But
It's
I
not
I
working
love that. Sorry.
between the parents, and so the parents said, "Well, since you won't be with me, you're not going
Yes.
to be with the one who
'Cause
you
that's
love,
what it's
who
about.
you love most."
That's what
That's
it
what
is.
it's
Yeah.
about.
And
That's my way
jealousy
of-
and
That's what it's
competition.
about.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
and my way of punishing you
Yeah.
for that wrongdoing.
You
And,
saying entitled was very strong, though. They're entitled to
yes,
both parents.
They
Yeah.
have ownership.
That's
That is
amazing.
their
Yeah.
father, and that
Yes.
is their mother, and they're entitled to their mother, and they're
Yes.
entitled to their
Yes.
father.
Absolutely.
You know, when you look at children's behavior in homes where mother and father are not together, so mother's living in one apartment, father's living in another, and you will hear this often enough. Every time I carry her home to her mother, she start crying in the place because she won't be with me. The minute I get her back, she crying in the place down, telling me she won't be with her mom. I can't figure this out.
She wants both.
Naturally,
Yeah.
because
The natural thing
yes,
is
and
both.
she is 50% of her mother, and she is 50%
Yes.
of her father, and she
Yes.
wants to
She want the
have
whole.
yes,
Yes.
and she wants what is truthfully hers,
Yeah.
right? And regardless of how difficult the relationship may be between the two parents, you gotta grow up and be adults.
Yep.
Because there is another human being in the middle of this, and sometimes more than one human being in the middle of
Yeah.
this,
Yes.
who have rights to their parents, and selfishness is depriving them, is robbing them of those rights.
Right.
Earlier also, if I can move on from that topic.
Yeah, because that's a whole
It's
other
the, it's,
show.
the, it's the ripple effect of
That's a
feminism.
whole
Eh?
other
It's the
show.
ripple effect.
Yes. Yes. So, but earlier we spoke about the economic impact, and how by default women came out from the home and the household and so on.
Right.
But it should never be underestimated that the woman in the household is the queen of that household. And the right husband recognizes her in that position. And he honors and he respects her. He won't let anybody come in and say an unkind word to her.
Right.
You better greet her as you come in through the door, because he's going to put you in check and say, "Did you see my wife standing over there with a cup of tea
Absolutely.
to offer to you?"
Yeah.
Because he is a man, and this is what he does, right? And she is his treasure. She's his ruby and diamonds.
I'm
Right.
looking for one of those. Oh,
And they're out there. And they're out there.
I love what
They're
Catherine
definitely out
said.
there, I can tell you that.
Catherine, listen, I love what you said, because I'm a big believer in intentionality, right?
Yes.
I'm and some people, unfortunately, be like, well, how comes I might not necessarily have a degree, I might not necessarily have certain education. Yesterday, one was like, well, I'm not necessarily of a high status as you, and I'm in a low status, and
You've
I'm like,
already knocked yourself
and I'm like,
out. Why
this
would
person
you
is
do
trying to
that?
up level, and I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm trying not to entertain,
Yeah.
but every now and then I find myself doing so. So I'm trying not to be led by my hormones. Thank you, Jesus. Right? But as you said, we take on, which I said to somebody last night, projects.
Yeah.
We take on people that we have to do a lot of work with.
Yes.
Now, we're supposed to be helpmeet, but they have to come to the table
gotta
with
come with
something.
something.
You know, you
Yeah.
can't just want to rely on me for
Right.
your development as such, and
Absolutely.
because you didn't get to a certain place in life.
Yeah.
So I'm like, every time I ask, what's your 5-year plan?
Yeah.
Where are you going? Because
Exactly.
if I'm going to be your help,
Yeah.
I need to know what I'm helping.
Yeah.
So I'm like, as
but
much as
also-
I would want a partner,
Yeah,
I can't take on stress. I'm sorry.
They're here to help you too. So it's
Right.
not just you help them.
Maximizing each other.
So I feel like one thing, my son, he said to me a few years ago, it's like, Mommy, did you ever heard the song, You Can Do Bad All By Yourself? I said, yeah, I heard it, but I can tell you something better. I can do good all by myself. So if I can do good all by myself, I am not going to do bad with you.
You
You know what I mean?
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
So at the end of the day, you know, when someone comes into your life, and we're talking about men and women, right? When they come into your life, when you talk about a 5-year plan, I want to know what the last 5 years look like.
That too,
Right?
innit?
Yeah.
That's an indicator
Yes.
to me of what the next 5 years will look like. And so I really want to see, you know, how we are going to be a help to each other. Can
Right.
we enhance each other's life? So I feel like, and I'm not a feminist by any stretch of the imagination. I'm married now. I'm very happy. He is definitely the king, and I'm the queen. You know, and it's all that traditional stuff, and I love that. You know, but at the end of the day, it's really about, you know, is he able to live up to a certain standard, as I am as well, and we have our roles as a male and a female in the home. Like we really have those roles, and I'm very excited about that. I'm happy about that. Didn't think I could ever find that, and I did. So
Because you searching.
yeah, yes, but we have to set the standard. But we do.
There
have
is, isn't it?
We have to set the standard, and we
Yeah.
have to push. We have to push people to be better. We really, really do. You know, I'm really happy I raised 2 sons. You know, with that idea of you can be amazing, and you're going to be amazing, and this is the type of husband I want you to be to your wife, or the type of partner I want you to be, or father. But when we meet people, we're not meeting our sons. We're meeting someone else's sons.
Yes.
Right.
And so it's about your standard. What type of standard are you setting for that person? And you know, they have to earn you. They have to deserve you. They have to, just like you earn and deserve. You know what I mean? It's not so simple.
That's why in the Hebrew tradition, right, it was fathers who validated the person who was seeking and pursuing the daughter.
Right.
And if you didn't pass
Are
my
you gonna be able to
standard,
take care of my daughter?
exactly. If you didn't pass my standard, you didn't go any
Yes,
further.
exactly.
You know, but most persons, I want to choose him myself, and a lot of women find themselves in serious problems when that is the
Right.
case.
Right.
Whereas I know the standard I want for my daughter. Right? Yes, I want you to be with somebody who you love, right? But introduce him to the ones who love and care for you, so that they can go through the, you know.
Yeah. I think we had 3 shows in one today.
Yes,
actually.
yes.
And it was amazing.
And the part about it is this discussion is going to carry on, because it is a very deep discussion.
Very much honest.
It's multifaceted. It's open. It's honest. And you have to tune in again, because this discussion will go on. But I just want to encourage the young mothers of today to grow great men.
Yeah.
You know, get a single mama.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Because
There you go.
in 10 years' time, there are going to be other women.
What men are you raising?
Saying, look, I'm looking for a husband. Here is my standard. Here is my bar. You have to get over this. And the only how that great women are going to have great men to select from to be great husbands is if great mothers raising great men.
That's
You know?
right.
And so
Good
for
stuff.
all,
That was hand clap for that one.
and so for all the challenges that you may have, there is a way for you to be able to, even if you're a single mother, to be able to raise great sons. You're not advocating for you to go have children outside of marriage, but the situation is that they are single mothers, they are single parents, okay? And actually, if you don't mind, this book speaks to parents, not just to single mothers. It speaks to single fathers as well, because you are raising your children. Your children.
Quickly, where can they find a copy of this?
At Next Chapter,
Okay.
in Cayman Bay, as well as, it used to be Books and Books, as well as More Than Words, which is in the Thompson building in town. That's Karen Chin,
Okay.
CLM Publishing. And of course, they can always link me.
Okay. Well, there you have it.
Yes,
Awesome.
and in addition to that as well, I'd like to invite you to tune in to the CTS Wind Down Show, which is on Friday afternoons at 6 p.m. on Bobo 89.1 FM. Now, folks, thank you so very much for joining us for this episode of A Good Show. Join us again next week, same time, same place, 7 p.m. Cayman Life TV on Channel 33. On Logic for a good show. Thank you.
Thank you for having us too.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we have a wonderful giveaway for this show, and continuing the topic. For the first 2 callers who would call in on the Sunday night show, a copy of Miss Catherine Tyson's book, Single Mama, Powerful and Not Pitiful. You don't want to miss it. First 2 callers on the Sunday night show that call. Can you give them that number, sis?
Sure. 922-6644. The first 2 callers who call to say that they watched the Sunday night episode of A Good Show will receive a copy of Single Mama, Powerful but Not Pitiful. Thank you for tuning in.
A Good Show is brought to you by the kind donations of private sponsors like yourselves and the support of companies such as Media Warehouse, 7 Miles of Grace, H. Philippi Bank's Attorney at Law, Dragonfly Cayman, and others. To become a sponsor, an advertiser, or to make a donation, email agoodshow@christian.ky.